Tonight on Ukraine Today, minus one more Russian warship. Reports are coming in about the destruction of an Admiral Grigorovich-class frigate, a carrier of Kalibr cruise missiles. Counteroffensive in the south. Ukraine's defense forces have already liberated 9 settlements from Russian occupiers. Clearing operations are ongoing in several more. The Kremlin's footprint in the Middle East. How are Iranian strikes connected to Russia? And can Putin actually help his friends in Tehran? Rock bottom broken through. The International Paralympic Committee banned Ukraine's ceremonial uniform because it is political. The reason? It shows a map of Ukraine with all its territories. All that and more right now. Hello, I'm Volodymyr Robchun and this is Ukraine Today. Please subscribe, like this video, and let's get to the news. Let's start with minus one more Russian warship. Information is emerging about the destruction of an Admiral Grigorovich-class frigate, a Kalibr missile carrier. Ascent analysts identified the vessel through satellite images after a Ukrainian strike on the port of Novorossiysk. By the way, according to available information, nearly 800 occupiers were eliminated there. More than 1,500 drones were destroyed, as well as 6 air defense systems. Let me remind you, in the same Novorossiysk, Ukraine's defense forces also damaged oil infrastructure. And that's far from all the bad news for the enemy. More in the report.
The Sheskaris oil terminal in Novorossiysk was left without tankers after an attack by Ukrainian UAVs. Sheskaris is a large marine complex designed for receiving, storing, and transshipping oil and petroleum products onto tankers. It is considered one of the largest and most strategically important oil facilities in Russia.
Russia's national economy is currently in a very difficult and precarious state, with losses reaching almost 40% or even nearly 50% in some sectors. Our long-range drones have systematically destroyed their critical oil storage facilities and strategic gas storage facilities, all thanks to the precision of our pilots from the Ukrainian Dispatcher Service, UR. These coordinated strikes have severely crippled their energy infrastructure and logistics. Therefore, all of the strategic operations currently taking place today with petroleum refineries, as well as various fuel storage facilities, allows us to systematically weaken and destabilize the economy of the Russian Federation and significantly reduce its overall capacity. The massive overall funding and the total military expenditure for the Russian army, which is already quite acutely feeling a very severe shortage of critical ammunition and a distinct growing lack of modern combat drones. In
November of last year, the terminal was hit twice, as a result of which oil exports were suspended. Ukrainian paratroopers broke through the enemy's defensive line in the Alexandrovsk direction. During the operation, enemy firing positions were destroyed. Personnel and the occupiers' ammunition storage sites were also destroyed, according to the soldiers.
Most likely, the enemy's forces were worn out. It is clear that this particular unit hasn't had a rotation for a long time. The moral and psychological state of the Russian troops is abnormal. Why? Because they haven't had a rotation for a long time.
Nobody needs the occupiers, neither at the front nor in the rear after they return. The wife of this so-called hero from the special military operation, according to his own stories, left for Lutsk.
All the guys keep saying something about being Russian, but I ran away myself.
Now this so-called hero, after losing his leg, is living out his days on a disability pension. There is no more work for him in Russia. Russian invaders occupied 126 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in February 2026. This is half as much as in January and the lowest figure since July 2024.
They have a certain amount of ammunition and weaponry. They have, so to speak, already completely exhausted their available resources. They still have some minor reserves left, which is exactly why now they have cut their offensive assault attempts down by more than half. Now they are transitioning into a state of active defensive operations, trying to dig in deep and trying to actively build up their fortified defensive line. Plus, the current weather conditions are also having an impact. So now, everything melts, then freezes again, then melts again. Mud, swamps. Vehicles can't move, especially in the 15 to 30 kilometer zone. It's pointless to even talk about vehicles because they're all monitored by drones.
Ukrainian fiber optic FPV drones are destroying 36 Russian soldiers in the Pokrovsk direction. Before you is footage of the combat operations of the SPU Special Forces.
Russia has now switched to active defense, trying to hold on to the positions they've already. But our brave warriors, the guys are doing great. They find weak spots and go on the counteroffensive. Because thank God our situation has changed now. We have all the necessary forces and resources. The only problem is that there is an issue with reserves.
Ukrainian specialists will be shooting down Iranian UAVs in the Persian Gulf. The United Kingdom has also allowed the United States to use British bases to strike at launch sites and at storage depots for Iranian missiles. However, it is not joining the strikes itself but continues defensive actions in the region.
Over the past 24 hours, Russia has lost at least 790 occupiers, killed and wounded. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, that brings the total to 1,268,520 invaders. In just one day, Ukraine's defense forces destroyed 5 Russian tanks, 20 armored combat vehicles, 47 artillery systems, and dozens of other pieces of enemy military equipment. Ukraine's defense forces have already liberated 9 settlements in the south of the country. Clearing operations continue in several more. All the details in the report.
The Ukrainian defense forces are successfully advancing in the Alexandrovsk direction, recapturing one settlement after another from the enemy.
Today, I can congratulate our army, first and foremost. All defense and security forces, of course, because as of today, 300 kilometers have been liberated. We know that the Russian mid-level command is afraid to report what is happening there. They can't even imagine how this could have happened, because on their maps, this is territory they control. But to be honest, that's no longer the case.
The territory they control, but honestly not anymore. To be more precise, as of today, 400 square kilometers have already been liberated. Analysts claim that this is already disrupting the enemy's plans for their spring-summer offensive campaign.
Right now, it is moving toward Huliaipol and further west into the rear, deep into the rear of the Russian Federation, in order to, let's say, cut off the enemy forces that tried to push too far into the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions and are now losing a huge number of personnel. And the most remarkable, the most important thing in this situation, friends, is that the offensive is developing without stopping. This is the first, the most significant, the most important factor that Ukraine has taken the initiative.
The Russian Ministry of Defense stated that this has nothing to do with the shutdown of Starlink, and in general they were used by the Russians solely as a diversionary tactic.
The shutdown of Starlink terminals did not affect the command and communication systems of the units in the Special Military Operations Zone. The actual communication and command systems in service provide stable information exchange through secure channels. I want to draw your attention to the fact that Starlink terminals have been disconnected for 2 weeks already, but this has not affected the intensity or effectiveness of the troops' unmanned systems, as confirmed by objective data on the destruction of enemy equipment and personnel.
But Russian war correspondents are complaining that, combined with the shutdown of Telegram, communications have fallen apart. And the Russian authorities don't care. They are more afraid of protests inside the country and are therefore destroying all possibilities for uncontrolled communication.
Starlink was shut down, of course. If Telegram was taken down by their own hands, then, well, Starlink was taken down by someone else's. Apparently, this has been deemed desirable at the very top of the Russian Federation. And you know why? Because ahead lie, probably, some very difficult decisions, in quotes. So our authorities have decided that it's better for the troops, even if the troops have a hard time. But there could be such unpleasant events ahead in the country, events that could provoke very large social protests.
Huge problems with communications have now emerged for the Russians at the front, of course, and this is also affecting the upcoming campaign that was planned and is already failing for Putin. And of course, it also affects the situation on the ground, as they like to say in Russia, in the military political command, especially when we talk about these offensive actions by the armed forces of Ukraine in the southern direction.
Partners will increase the supply of offensive weapons to Ukraine, as well as air defense systems, to more effectively protect the rear.
There will be support, and the supply of drones is also increasing. This concerns both strike types and basic levels of support, including for the fairly effective drone assault units. There will also be certain announcements regarding laser-guided artillery. That is, we plan to increase the supply of this artillery, or more precisely, to receive more of this type of artillery from our partners.
It's clear that as soon as Putin loses this trump card, as soon as his missiles and drones can no longer reach their targets, his war will become even more problematic for him, because these strikes are still something they can show on TV, on Russian Telegram channels. And when even that is gone, what will he have left to boast about? What will he show and demonstrate? And most importantly, what will he use to threaten? With nothing.
In Russia, they immediately started whining and made up a story about nuclear weapons being supplied from Europe and about planning terrorist attacks against gas infrastructure. Well,
Right now, the media are already starting to report, probably, about their attempts or deliberate intentions to even use a certain type of nuclear component. They probably understand how this could end. At this very moment in time, our detailed operational information is also being extensively covered and reported across various media outlets today. Well, it really should be available there already, although I personally haven't had a spare moment to check the news myself. But the reports are specifically about a possible catastrophic explosion of our natural gas systems located deep on the floor of the Black Sea. These are the so-called Turkish Stream and Blue Stream pipelines. They just can't calm down.
it's obvious that Putin's position and that of his army is becoming increasingly difficult. And it will only get worse as long as he intends to continue his war of aggression.
Over the past 3 months, Ukraine has regained control of more territory than the enemy managed to seize. During this same period, Russia lost nearly 93,000 soldiers, along with large amounts of equipment. This was reported by the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, General Alexander Syrsky. According to him, Ukrainian forces are actively operating in the Alexandrovsky and Hulaypole directions, strengthening control over Kupiansk and continue to hold back Russian troops in the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration area. Ukraine is fighting for freedom. Support independent Ukrainian journalism so we can keep telling the truth about Russia's war. Click the link in the description to become our sponsor. Now's the time to subscribe, like this video and share it so more people can see it. Thank you, and glory to Ukraine. The United States is urging Americans to immediately leave countries in the Middle East. The reason? Serious risk to life connected to events in and around Iran. The half-destroyed Ayatollah regime is launching missiles and drones at every Western-oriented country it can reach. Some of these attacks, interestingly, fully align with the Kremlin's interests.
There will be no truce. On the contrary, the entire Middle East is entering the war. Even European countries are getting involved. Iran has officially refused to negotiate with the US, and Tehran is ready to fight for the long haul. Moreover, they are attacking everyone indiscriminately. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and Iraq have already come under attack from Tehran. Even the British Akrotiri air base in Cyprus was targeted. A drone flew there. The UK Ministry of Defence confirmed the strike. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides stated that the base sustained only minor damage.
I want to make this clear. Our country is in no way involved and does not intend to participate in any military operations.
Iran primarily vents its anger on Israel, often targeting ordinary residential neighborhoods. However, on Monday morning, a strike was also carried out against the military and political leadership. The IRGC claims to have attacked Netanyahu's office. The Israeli Air Force Command was also reportedly targeted. Israel, as well as American and European bases, are not Iran's only targets. Iranian attacks have also targeted oil infrastructure. Tehran has already struck an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. There are also reports of a drone attack on offshore oil platforms in the United Arab Emirates. Due to the strikes on the oil industry, as well as uncertainty surrounding the operation of the Strait of Hormuz, which is controlled by Iran and through which most tankers pass, the price of black gold has soared to over $80 per barrel. Usually about 1/5 of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas passes through the Strait of Hormuz every day. Iran stated that the waterway remains open. However, it also confirmed attacks on 3 oil tankers on Sunday. Israel and the United States effectively control the skies over Iran and continue to methodically destroy its military and defense infrastructure. In response, Iran officially declared that it does not plan to develop missiles capable of reaching US territory. But strikes on American bases abroad are called a just response. You
said that your missiles cannot reach the United States. You are not seeking to reach the US, but you also said that it would be necessary as part of self-defense. Just to be clear, can you guarantee that Iran is not building and will not build missiles capable of reaching the United States?
I can confirm that, yes.
Sir, if this is a red line for you, why are attacks on American air bases abroad justified?
Because they attack us.
But the countries that have suffered from Iran's strikes clearly do not see any justice in this. With its actions, Tehran has only increased the number of its enemies. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are already joining the war against Iran. Both countries have strongly condemned Tehran's actions and warned of the consequences of further violations of the sovereignty of neighboring states. And even France is ready to enter the war.
France is ready, in accordance with the agreements that bind it to its partners and the principle of collective self-defense provided for by international law, to take part in their protection. As for
active measures, only Russia is not ready. There, they once again stated that they are in constant contact with the Iranian leadership. Simply put, they're keeping their finger on the pulse, but they're not planning to do anything. China has also spoken out. In the Celestial Empire, all parties involved in the Iranian conflict have been urged to cease military actions and prevent the escalation of the conflict.
The strikes by the US and Israel against Iran violated international law, and China is deeply concerned about the consequences for neighboring countries.
Analysts state that the next 48 hours will be decisive. Either there will be a capitulation of the Iranian regime or further escalation. After the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, protests in the country intensified. There are also reports of tension between the Iranian regular army and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The risk of nuclear escalation is too high. In addition, Iran has announced that a nuclear facility in Natanz has been hit. The IAEA warns of the risk of radiation leakage.
By the way, the British air base in Cyprus was attacked by Shahed drones containing Russian components. On the wreckage of a downed UAV, investigators found a Kometa M4 electronic antenna system, the same type Russia installs on drones and missiles used to attack Ukraine. Here's another striking detail. Thousands of Russian citizens have become hostages of the Middle East escalation. Those Russians who choose to ignore Moscow's aggression and enjoy life under the sun in the United Arab Emirates suddenly found Iranian drones flying above them, the very same type Russia uses to strike peaceful Ukrainian cities.
It's so great here.
The war has reached the United Arab Emirates. Just yesterday, there was blazing sun, swimming pools, and skyscrapers. Today, there are reports of Iranian missile strikes. A region that for many years marketed itself as an island of stability in the Middle East has now found itself in a zone of military turbulence. Tourists from Russia are feeling this especially acutely.
Oh, another one.
After 2022, Russian citizens began moving to Dubai en masse. They opened bank accounts, bought real estate, and moved their families.
They never wanted to think about war. It was unpleasant for them. They weren't interested in it. They had other things to do. They wanted to live their own little lives or big lives with lots of money.
Dubai is a well-known refuge for people who didn't want to think about the war.
And it came to them.
What Russians have been inflicting on the whole world for years has now caught up with them in the Persian Gulf.
Here we are, heading to the shelter at 1 in the morning.
Those who just yesterday said, "We're not into politics," now politics has come to them itself.
Drones are flying and missiles flew right past our house. We're in the Palm Jumeirah area in Dubai. And today there was a notification just recently from the Dubai police telling everyone to take shelter, meaning in parking lots or bomb shelters, which don't actually exist in Dubai. Nothing like this has ever happened here before.
On February 28th, Dubai came under one of the largest attacks ever. Drones and missiles were falling practically in the city center. The Fairmont, the Palm Hotel on the artificial Palm Jumeirah Island came under fire. A fire broke out on the upper floors, and 4 people were injured.
Oh my God, what a nightmare.
The legendary Burj Al Arab was also attacked. After a drone strike, part of the facade caught fire.
Something just burned up in the sky here. Something inside caught fire. I think there's some kind of fire over there. Something just caught fire right behind the Burj, and there was a very powerful explosion.
Iran continues to attack Dubai. The air defense systems keep working non-stop. The city, which is used to living around the clock, has practically come to a standstill. People are hiding from the strikes in hotel rooms and underground parking lots.
The Dubai Opera, the Burj Khalifa. There are hardly any people.
Just a few here and there.
People are walking around, but the usual crowds are completely gone.
One of the missiles fell just a few meters from luxury apartments and private villas, where, among others, tourists from Russia are staying. Windows were blown out in the buildings, and the facades were hit by shrapnel.
Here it is, our building. And this is where the missile fell. Something is flying overhead right now, too. The cops have arrived.
The operations of Dubai International and Al Maktoum, the key airports, were effectively halted after a drone struck one of the terminals. According to the Russian Association of Tour Operators, at least 20,000 Russian tourists are stranded in the United Arab Emirates.
The terminals are closed. We are standing at the entrance. Everything is calm around us. We're waiting. There's water available.
Russian tourists are trying to leave the country not only by plane but also by sea. Russians are buying up tickets for cruise liners, hoping to bypass aviation restrictions and leave the region via the Persian Gulf. However, this route also turned out to be unavailable. Due to the closure of the airspace, dozens of Russian tourists found themselves trapped on Mauritius, a small island in the Indian Ocean. In the United Arab Emirates, they were supposed to transfer to flights home. Meanwhile, the Russian Consulate General in Dubai has issued a memo for fellow citizens. In light of the escalating situation in the region, we ask you to remain calm and observe reasonable safety precautions. The statement published on the consulate's Telegram channel says. They also attached instructions on how to protect yourself in case of drone or missile threats, along with several practical tips. We recommend realistically assessing your financial capabilities and being prepared to pay for your own accommodation if necessary. Plan your finances for at least a week of accommodation. If you run out of money, try to use the hotel's internet to look for alternative accommodation options. And while some tourists are panicking and dreaming of being home, others continue to enjoy their vacation as if nothing is happening around them. They sunbathe on the beaches, swim in the sea, and build sandcastles with their children, all against the backdrop of flying drones and rockets.
Even though the local beach is officially closed to the public right now, that certainly doesn't seem to stop anyone from heading down to the water anyway.
Dubai, which for decades has built an image as a safe and stable center of the world, now finds itself drawn into a major conflict where even luxurious resorts and gleaming skyscrapers cannot guarantee distance from geopolitical strife.
The strongest strikes against Iran are still ahead. That's according to the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He also stated that the United States will begin implementing a program aimed at softening the sharp rise in oil prices. And let me add, the cheaper the oil, the less money the Kremlin has for war. French President Emmanuel Macron has ordered an increase in the number of nuclear warheads in France's arsenal. To be free, we must be feared. And to be feared, we must be powerful, Macron said. He also announced that France, Germany and the United Kingdom will work together to develop long-range missiles. How do you like that turn of events? And finally, about that rock bottom. The International Paralympic Committee has banned Ukraine's ceremonial uniform because it is supposedly political. Why? Because the uniform features a map of Ukraine including Crimea, the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, territories that Russia temporarily occupies and rushed to include in its so-called constitution. So the question is simple. What or who is really political here? Ukraine's Paralympic team uniform or the leadership of the International Paralympic Committee? I think the answer is obvious. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support. Strength to Ukraine's defenders. Glory to Ukraine. Like, subscribe, comment, share. And see you next time.